take your big thoughts to big places and suddenly they feel small. Now, one of the biggest dangers I find, at least in myself nowadays, that we spend so much time inside on your computer, on your phone, studying, even things that are a bit healthier, but you're always, as even I am recording this video, within these four walls, closed, small, and no matter how vast the information you consume is and how deep you go into these topics, the physical side of us, our bodies, are still quote unquote trapped within these walls. If you look around, as I look around, yeah, there's a window here and I see a bit some buildings or whatever in the background, but it is completely different as if I was at the beach or hiking, where I really feel much more the vastness of the world. And especially in certain places, let's say if you climb to the top of the hike, you really feel that. And you look around and it is inevitable to that you won't feel small, or you will feel small is what I'm trying to say here. And it will put things into perspective and you'll be more outside of your thoughts and more in the world. Because that's what I'm trying to get at here. It is so easy when in these environments to just start spiraling into our thoughts and, start with a little hint of something negative and then think more about it and then see some content about it that just makes things even worse, and then go more down and down into the spiral of negativity, whether that's anger or jealousy or insecurity, these feelings that feel very suffocating, and that once they take a hold of you, it can feel as if they darken every sort of corner of your being. It will give you the sense that they transcend just your thoughts, and they're going to make you breathe a little heavier. They're going to make you less, your appetite is going to decrease, your motivation to do certain things is going to disappear. You're going to be so obsessive over it that your life is really going to suffer. And if you try to be productive when you're feeling like that, forget about it. Every 3 seconds you're going to be deviating from your work and going into these things. And obviously that's not good. But what also is not good is how we tend to approach these things. Because how often don't we feel these things in our mind, and our initial reaction is to, in a way, try to fight the mind with the mind. We see this big monster that we're trying to fight, they're trying to destroy of these negative thoughts, and we think, well, my mind is not working how I want, so let me fight it with other means of the mind. For example, let me go and meditate or do some breath work or read a bit more about this or find some strategies online on how to deal with this, which is obviously very logical. But I find here is not a place where logic works, because all of these things that you're going to find are good. I'm never going to say meditating is not good. Of course not. But they're much better at prevention than they are at fixing it. Because when you're already in it, yeah, good luck just trying to be there and breathing and trying to forget about your thoughts. You're not going to be able to, especially if they're very strong and very suffocating. Probably it's going to make it even worse, because you're just going to be there thinking about things even more with your eyes closed, imagining all these scenarios. And, depending the type of person you are, it can hurt you more than it can do you good. Now, again, I agree that these things are good, but they have their place. It is to prevent these things from appearing. It is to become a calmer person in general, more mindful, more, in the moment, not so much just living in these bubbles of, scrolling or whatever. And that is good, of course. But when you're in it, I don't agree it's that good, because you are still essentially fighting this thing that seems like a very big monster. What I think, that I already touched on a bit here because I changed the order of things, but that it is much better to, instead of fighting it as it is to diminish it to the point that it seems almost just like a fly that's a bit annoying, but you can shoo it away. And the best way to do that, if not the only, if you really struggle with this, is to get out of these four walls. We can think that it's all in our mind, that it's just about the mind, but it is not. The mind and body are connected. And of course, that if I'm just here and I see nothing around me, then the only thing I can focus on are my thoughts. But I step outside and I go for a walk without my phone, without anything. Sun is hitting, I see trees, I see people, I see a park, I go walk in between the trees, and then all of a sudden, I'm connected with the world. For how cringe that may be of a thing to say, I'm much more living in the moment. And all of a sudden, without the roof over my head, I also get a better perspective of things. Again, as I say, I take my big problems to big places, and the bigger the place, the smaller it's gonna seem, these problems that we have, because we're gonna recognize they're all in our minds. If I go to the top of, as I was saying, to the top of a mountain and I look down, I'm surrounded by this beauty. Will I really still be thinking about this thing that was angering me that I saw on Instagram and then I started going down these rabbit holes? No, because I can't even access them. I probably don't even have signal, so I'm just forced to be there. And when I'm forced to be there and the mind doesn't have any kind of string to hold on to and unravel all of these things, then it just quiets down. And then you are free, or you are finally able to realize just how stupid it is to think that you are trapped by these things. And of course, there's going to be different levels of this and different people, of course. But none of these people that are struggling with this are living in the outside world. They are, as unfortunately sometimes, a lot of times, I find myself spending too much time indoors, in your room, with your computer, with no one to talk to, with nothing beautiful to look at except your screen. That, again, it's just gonna lead you to more of these things. How often, I ask you, have you ever went into these spirals when you were in a beautiful hike, or watching a sunset at the beach, or with a great afternoon goofing around with your friends, or doing the sport that you love, that you just it forces you not to be interacting with these things? Probably never. Even if you were before feeling like that, you go there and then you forget about it, and then it's almost like you have to force yourself to think about it again, to go back to it. And yes, some of us may be a bit addicted to these negative feelings. It may give you a sense of purpose and of, if not anything, a sense of entertainment, but they disappear when you're doing these things. And I think what it does force us to confront is that, and not in all cases, of course, the more extreme cases are different, but it forces us to confront the fact that fundamentally we just don't know how to deal with boredom. I can just be here, and I speak for myself, I'm not here just saying advice as if I know it all, but I find myself, I'm just here home with nothing to do. It's very normal or very common that I'll just go on Instagram and start scrolling, and then I find something to get upset or to get irritated about or to go down a spiral. Because I don't know a lot of times just how to be bored there. And just be, I don't know, laying on the couch or going to the balcony and sitting there and just looking at the cars pass. Or just doing nothing, like a cat will just sit there looking at nothing for hours on end. I think this is the problem, is that we cannot deal with boredom. And then because we cannot deal with boredom, we go to all of these platforms, all this content, all of these things that lead us down these spirals, and that then leads us to feel like we just have no control over our lives and our emotional states, and that we don't feel free and easy and light. We feel the opposite. But I think at the end of the day, it boils down, first of all, of course, to not being so much inside, but then also to be able to be more bored. When I say all these things, to go to a hike or to the beach or to a park, if you're there without your phone, you will be bored, because it is a much slower pace. When you're looking at the sunset, if you're alone, that's it. It's slow. There's nothing to do but that. You brought a book, maybe you didn't, but free from all these stimulus, you just have to be there. And to be there is very difficult. But if we don't do that, if we don't give this sort of blessing to ourselves, then what is the opposite? To just be inside, turning on my screen and getting angry and upset and all these things? Is that really what we want, what you want? Because if it isn't, well, then you're going to have to make some pretty difficult choices here. But if you don't make them, and I say to you as much as I say to myself, of going and being bored and being in nature and allowing this initial sort of sense of almost like an itch that you have to scratch to pass, and that you can be like, all right, I let go, whatever, the phone, whatever, then we're never going to get to the point, or we're never going to get to experience life as it is meant to be experienced. It's not a fast pace, a crazy pace, always consuming content and news and tragedies. No, it is looking at the grass and the sunset and the trees and having a small talk with someone. That is life, and that is a beautiful way to live life. But we have to allow ourselves to experience it that way.